Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. In this video, we're going to walk through a few examples of how to create a bar chart schedule. Let's dive into example 1. Here, you need to create a bar chart based on the information shown in this table. We'll be using weeks as the time unit. The project has 4 activities, A, B, C, and D. The table also provides the start times and durations for each activity. For example, activity A starts in week 1 and has a duration of 3 weeks. So we can expect it to finish by the end of week 3. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, let's start by creating a calendar table like this. You'll have the weekly timescale along the x-axis and the activities listed on the y-axis. It's important to list the activities in chronological order based on their start dates. So you'll begin with the activity that has the earliest start date, which in this case is activity A. Activity A starts in week 1, so it should begin at the left side of column 1, and it takes 3 weeks to complete, so it will finish at the right side of column 3. If you follow this process for the remaining 3 activities, you'll end up with a schedule that looks like this. Now, what does this schedule actually tell us? Well, first, it shows the total duration of the project, as well as the start and finish dates for each activity and for the entire project. Let's take a look at when activity C finishes. As you can see, it wraps up at the end of week 4. What about the project finish date? The project finishes when the last activity is completed. In this case, activity D is the last to finish, so the project's finish date is at the end of week 6. Alright, in the previous example, we were given all the start dates. But in real projects, you usually don't have the start dates for each activity when you're doing the scheduling. You might only know the project's start date. So let's look at a more realistic scenario. In this example, you need to create a bar chart for the foundation stage of a building and use it to determine the total duration. The first column shows the activity code, and the second column provides the activity description. We have activities like layout foundation, dig foundation, place formwork, place concrete, purchase steel, cut and bend steel, place steel reinforcement, and order concrete. You might notice that these activities aren't in chronological order yet. When you're creating the bar chart schedule, you'll need to rearrange them in the right order based on when they need to start. The third column lists the immediately preceding activities, or IPAs. By looking at this column, you can understand the relationships between activities and figure out the sequence they need to follow. For example, activity A, layout foundation, doesn't have any IPAs, so it can start right when the project starts. There's no dependency with any other activities. But for activity B, dig foundation, it has to wait for activity A, layout foundation, to be completed. You can't start digging until the layout is done. The last column in this table gives the duration of each activity in days, just like in the previous example. So, to recap, in this example, we don't have the start dates, but we do have the precedence relationships, or IPAs and durations. You'll need to use that information to build the Gantt chart schedule. Alright, let's work through this example. Just like in the first example, the first step is to create a timescale table, then list all the activities in the left column. Since we don't know the start dates yet, we'll leave the activities in the order they're given for now. We'll rearrange them later after we've completed the scheduling. For the timescale, since the durations are given in days, we'll use a daily timescale. Let's start with activity A. This has no predecessor, meaning it doesn't depend on any other activity, so it can start on day 1. The duration is 2 days, so this bar will last for 2 days, finishing on day 2. Next, for activity B, it depends on activity A, meaning it can only start after A is completed. Since A finishes on day 2, B can start on day 3. Its duration is 3 days, so it'll be finished by the end of day 5. Now let's look at activity C. This comes after B, and its duration is 2 days. Since B finishes on day 5, C can start on day 6 and finish on day 7. Next, activity D. This is preceded by 2 activities, G and H. However, we don't know the finish dates for G and H yet, so let's skip activity D for now and move on to activity E. This activity has no predecessor, so it can start right at the beginning on day 1. Activity F. This follows E, so it can start on day 2 once E is completed. Since F lasts for 2 days, it will be finished by day 3. Activity G. This activity depends on both C and F, so it can't start until both of them are finished. C finishes on day 7 and F finishes on day 3, so G can start on day 8. Since G only takes 1 day, it will be completed by the end of day 8. Next, activity H. This activity has no predecessor, so it can also start on day 1. Now we can return to activity D. D is preceded by both G and H, so it can start on day 9 after G finishes. Now that we've got the schedule for all activities, we can see that the total duration of the foundation phase is 9 days. This schedule is technically correct, but it's not very well organized since the activities aren't listed in order of their start dates. So now we need to rearrange the activities based on their start dates. After rearranging the activities in chronological order by their start date, you'll have a much cleaner and more organized bar chart. This order makes it easier to understand the sequence of work and the flow of activities. So first, you'll start with the layout foundation. At the same time, you can purchase the steel and concrete concurrently. After the materials are delivered, you can move on to cutting and bending the steel. Once the foundation work is completed, you can begin digging the foundation, followed by placing the formwork and steel reinforcement, and finally pouring the concrete. As you can see, organizing the schedule by start date really helps make the whole process clearer and more logical. Now that you've seen 2 examples of how to develop bar chart schedules, let's talk about some of the pros and cons of this method. Advantages. First, as you can see, bar charts are really easy to prepare. They don't require any complex calculations. They're also very easy for anyone to understand, even people who aren't technically trained. By looking at the bar chart, you can quickly get the big picture of the project, the overall duration, the order of work, and the different project phases. It's also helpful because you can easily identify concurrent activities, those that happen at the same time. Additionally, it's great for spotting near-term activities, those that are coming up soon, like tomorrow or next week. So overall, bar charts make it simple to understand the flow of a project and stay on top of what's coming up. However, this method does have some drawbacks. The biggest limitation of bar charts is that they're not very good at showing the logic or relationships between activities. If you remember the bar charts we created in the previous examples, we didn't include any details about how activities depend on each other. So if you handed this schedule to someone else, they wouldn't be able to see the precedence relationships between the activities. Another major disadvantage of bar charts is that they're difficult to update and make changes to. This issue actually stems from the first one. Since bar charts don't show the logical dependencies between activities, it's hard to analyze how a delay in one activity might affect the others. For example, if activity A gets delayed, can you easily figure out which other activities will be impacted? It's tough to tell just by looking at the bar chart, because we're not tracking the logic between them. This is a key limitation of bar charts, and for this reason, you'll need to use more advanced scheduling methods, which we'll cover in the next module. That wraps up this video on bar chart examples. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.